Hi everyone, today on Sporty History I'm going to be talking about the big battle of the sexes tennis matches that were held in 1973. There are going to be two matches that I'm going to talk about. The first one, Bobby Riggs versus Margaret Court, and later, and the much more well-known one of Bobby Riggs versus Billie Jean King. So I'm going to introduce the topic with a little bit about Bobby Riggs just to set up how these games actually came to be. So Bobby Riggs was born in 1918 and quickly became a successful amateur and professional tennis player. He would hold 99 career titles and was ranked number one in the world in 1939. And then, unfortunately, World War II happened and it cut his fairly successful tennis career a little short. So when he retired from professional tennis, he became known as a bit of a hustler and gambler. He often sponsored kind of exhibition games or championship games between retired professional tennis players, where he would also bet a lot of money on them. Now, at the age of 55, Riggs came out of retirement to challenge one of the world's best female tennis players, to show that the male tennis game was far more superior than the women's tennis game. He also believed that even though a few years into his retirement, his game and skills were so superior that he could still beat even the best female players. To the first game of Riggs versus Court. So Riggs began to set up a match between him and one of the world's top female players. He actually initially asked Billie Jean King to compete against him, but he refused. So Margaret Court took up the competition. So Court was an Australian tennis player who ranked about number one in the world at the time, and that year she had won 3 out of 4 Grand Slam titles, both in the singles and doubles category. So she was set up to be fairly stiff competition. Court at the age of 30 and Riggs at the age of 55 were set to play a match on Mother's Day, May 13th, 1973. They had adjusted the layout for the matches so that basically whoever won the best of 3 would go on to win the entire match, as men's games tend to be longer than women's games, so they wanted to even it out in the middle. Before the game began, Riggs came out onto the court with a bunch of flowers and gave them to all the ladies on the court. He also gave Margaret Court some flowers, of which she curtsied when she received them. So during the game, Riggs quickly came out on top using techniques that caused Court to lose her balance. He would win the first round 6-2 and the second round 6-1. After the game, they called it the Mother's Day Massacre, which is really not a great title for a lot of reasons. Riggs would later end up on the cover of Time magazine and Sports Illustrated for winning this match. Court said afterwards that she did not play to her best ability, as she didn't really take the game very seriously, which is possibly why she may have lost. She's also said that Riggs' play style was a little bit strange. She didn't expect him to mix up techniques and serves and volleys, of which she also added that women don't play like this, so it wasn't expected to meet that on the court. Even though Riggs had beaten Margaret Court, one of the number one top-ranked female players in tennis, he continued to set his eyes further on more top female players to keep proving his point that men were far better than women. So after the Mother's Day Massacre, Riggs kept going on about the inferior female tennis game. He kept harping on that not even the top female player could beat a retired former top male player. So he egged on Billie Jean King to take him on in another game, even going as far as to call her a woman's leader, as she was a leader in the women's liberation movement that was kind of happening at the time. However, in order to sweeten the pot and to try and entice King to come and play, he said that there would be a $100,000 prize for the winner, to which King accepted to take him on in a tennis match. Now, there's a lot more press and coverage surrounding this game, as King was a little bit more well known and there was now a lot more money involved. So at a press conference actually prior to the game, Riggs let King know exactly how he felt about women. Now here are some of his direct quotes from his press conference. "I'll tell you why I'll win. She's a woman and they don't have emotional stability. Women belong in the bedroom and the kitchen, in that order. Women play about 25% as good of men, so they should get about 25% of money men get." He also said that he would jump off of a bridge if he lost to King. To which, unfortunately, Billie had to kind of brush it all off. She did end up calling him a creep, had a couple little comments about things that he said, but other than that, most of his comments were kind of the headliners of that press conference. Now, Riggs had done a lot of work to get the prize money with sponsorships, a stadium, and had really built up the game, so a lot of people were really excited to watch it. He even got a primetime spot on ABC. He had also again bet on himself to win, hoping to make a little bit more money than the actual prize pot of $100,000. So the game was played in the Houston Astrodome in Houston, Texas on September 20th, 1973. Riggs and King both had two wonderful entries onto the court, as it was an exhibition game and they could kind of do whatever they wanted. Riggs entered the stadium on a rickshaw that was being pulled by very scantily dressed models, of whom were called Bobby's bosom buddies. He also wore a sugar daddy jacket, for which he was given in about today's money of about $300,000 to wear as an advertisement. King also had a lovely entry. She actually came into the stadium being carried by four half-naked men on a bed, kind of like what you imagine Cleopatra to be coming in on. There was lots of feathers and also half-naked people. So at half court, they exchanged some gifts. Riggs gave King a giant sugar daddy lollipop, again with the advertisements, and King gave Riggs a squealing piglet as a symbol of his male chauvinism. So the game begins with King not doing initially so well. She's actually down 3-2 at the half of the first match, but King hits back and breaks Riggs' serve. During the game, King has stated that she believed that if she lost the game, it would ruin the women's tour and affect all of women's self-esteem. She also added that, "I thought I would set us, as in the women's liberation movement and women's rights, back 50 years if I didn't win that match." When she broke his serve, the game started to favor King more. She would eventually win both sets 6-3 and 6-3 and won the Battle of the Sexes, and was awarded the $100,000 by George Foreman. This match was actually viewed by 50 million people just in America and 90 million people across the globe. And the event is actually considered one of the most watched tennis matches in the entire world. So after the Riggs versus King Battle of the Sexes match, King became a bit of a superstar athlete and started earning about $1 million in what was 1973 money, so it's a couple more million worth today now, in dollars, due to sponsorship deals that she was able to earn from it. She would continue her professional tennis career until 1983. There's actually allegations of Riggs, who had actually thrown the match against Billy in order to settle some gambling debts with the mob. However, none of these accusations have been proven, and people have spoken out saying that no, it's not at all true, but his reputation as a hustler and gambler has kind of thrown some possibilities of being related to the mob or having some dealings with the mob. And no, he did not jump off a bridge after he lost the game to King. So King winning the match was incredibly important for the women's liberation movement and for women's sports at this time. In the 1970s, there was a new wave of women's liberation that really wanted to focus on equality between men and women when it came to working and being paid and having access to certain rights, or just basic human rights as well. Now, King beating Riggs proved that women could beat men, and that women's athletics and sports were actually something to take seriously. Also, King had started a movement within tennis for equal pay for both male and female tennis athletes. Later, along with 8 female players, they actually created their own tennis league that would see women being paid an equal amount of money. This would later turn into the Women's Tennis Association and started the movement for women and men being paid equally within tennis, which is now one of the few sports that actually does do this. Now, as for the women's liberation movement, it was a huge step to help people change their perspective on women, particularly women performing in athletics, but also for people to realize that they did deserve equality, and greatly brought to light a lot of sexism women faced daily, not just in the sports world, but also in everyday life. Even just going off of the few things that Riggs said, it showed that women don't necessarily need to be in the kitchen and the bedroom at all times. So in concluding, something I do think I should add to this is that after the match, Riggs and King actually became lifelong friends. After sitting through a match, listening to a man kind of berate you for being a woman and tell you you're not good enough, King kind of became the better person, and they actually had a lifelong friendship. Shortly before Riggs died in 1995 due to cancer, King was actually one of the last people that he talked to as well. So thank you for watching this rundown of the Riggs versus King/Court Battle of the Sexes tennis matches in 1973. If you did like this video, please let me know. You can give it a thumbs up. Also, if there's another sporting event you would like me to cover, you can also let me know as well. Thank you for sticking around and watching. Bye!